Hello quilty friends and welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel and I make videos about quilting and my creative life. Anywhere that you can find me on the web is listed down in the description box below, including staying up to date in real time with what I'm making on Instagram and TikTok, and now also exclusive content over on my Patreon page. Today I'm coming on to share with you all the things that I've recently been sewing and quilting. I think it's been about 2 months since I've done one of these. There's lots of things that I've been working on, loads of different little projects, so I thought I'd come on and give you a roundup. Pretty much the end of September, we'll start getting into winter and Christmas makes coming up soon, so I'll give you a roundup of what I've been doing. So first up, we'll start off with the more traditional quilts, actual quilts rather than mini quilts and other little projects. So I am almost done quilting my Sophie Jane quilt. I've got this wonderful Tana lawn on the background. Oh, it's just so buttery soft. It's really nice. I'm so glad that I used that. So the backing was actually kind of like a remnant from this company called the Sophie Hayes Foundation, and what happened is they're gifted lots of dead stock fabric directly from Liberty, and it's sort of a lucky dip. I think you get 3 meters and it is at a good price. I think it was about £45 for 3 meters, whereas that should be about 75, a little bit more for if you bought it. Now, someone said in the last video, can they see less of my face and more of the projects? So I'll do my best to show more of the projects in this video, but I can't take my face out of it. So this is the quilt. I'll try and put some footage over the top of all the things that I show you, but I've done all of the quilting all the way up to the final board. My dog's playing with the toy. So I've done all of the quilting through all of the borders and rows all the way up to this final pink border, and I've just started the hand quilting there. I've done about 1/4 of an inch. I haven't marked any of the quilting lines on this quilt, I've just eyeballed it, and I can just kind of feel where the seam allowance is, so I'm just stitching right next to the seam allowance to keep myself on track at 1/4 of an inch. I'm not sure if I'll add another row of quilting to the border. I don't think so, because the other quilting is maybe every inch or 2. It's not hugely dense in the quilting, so I think I'll just go ahead and add the binding. I usually do quite a wide binding. I do a 3-inch binding or 3.5 inch, so that will make the edge really nice. And the binding that I've got for this quilt is actually this border. So that border there will then be mirrored in the binding of the quilt, and I just don't want to finish the hand quilting of it. It is so nice, especially stitching through the Liberty. For this project I've just used Gutterman hand quilting thread. It's got like a slightly wax texture to it, but it's really good. It's actually really affordable. I always buy 2 rolls of it, but you really don't need it. There's a lot on each spool. Yeah, and I'm just doing it in white thread because the majority of places I've quilted on the white parts of the quilt. So I think I'll be quite sad when I've finished actually hand quilting that, because I really enjoy the project, but maybe I'll have to get another Liberty quilt on the go for hand quilting. Now, you might have seen my recent video on this quilt, but this is a machine pieced hexagon quilt in like a grandmother's garden style. So this quilt uses 2 jelly rolls and then a half hexagon template to create these wonderful hexagons. You sew them together without any Y seams, so there's no difficult piecing or anything. The hardest thing really about the quilt is that you have to plan the design, so you do need a design board or somewhere that you can lay it out, and then somewhere to keep it organised, because the way the hexagons work is it's on like a 2-row repeat. You have to have the half of the hexagon in one row and then matching on the second row, so you do have to stay organised with your pieces. That's the only downside. So for me, I had to lay out that first half of the quilt on my design wall, stitch it together, and then once that was done, I then had room to put the second half of the design up. So it's just kind of like a constant rotation. But while I was doing that, I was also working on a leaders and enders project. So this is a really simple project that I'm doing just with these 4 patches, and then they're just repeated and laid together in a checkerboard style. And they're just really nice, fun fabrics, lots of bright colours. The fabrics for these are from a company called Antique Fabrics Pink. I think that's the right way around. They're on Etsy, they're also on Instagram. They are based in Japan. They do ship overseas through their Etsy shop, but you can also purchase the fabric from Rose Garden Patchwork here in the UK. And then the cream is a Lewis and Irene fabric, and I think it's called something like Sprinkles. So I was working on piecing those in pairs, and then from there I put them into 4s. But again, it's one of those designs where it's past the 4 stage. I need to lay it out really so I can make sure that I'm not having too much fabric close to one another. And here is just a little stack of the fabrics. And I just keep this in a little tub next to my machine, and I just pull them out and then just do them as leaders and enders. And this is what the quilt so far looks like. You've probably noticed it, I've had it on my design wall for quite a while. Sort of spurring me on to do it really. But it is really handy to have a leaders and enders project, especially when you're doing something where you have to stop and start quite a lot. I am looking forward to finishing this because I think the hand quilting will be really relaxing to do. I'm just going to use a cream perlate thread to go diagonally through the cream squares. I think that will really allow the coloured fabric to pop. I had thought about doing perhaps maybe a coloured thread for the hand quilting, but I think it's already quite bright enough that I don't need to add anything else to it. It's not a leaders and enders project, that's the first one that I've done, and I used to just use a thread bunny and put it under, but you can save so much time doing a project just by putting a simple block underneath, so I'll definitely do it again. I think I'll just stick to squares or something quite easy because you don't have to worry too much. I'm not always too fussy about my points matching, and it's just nice just to put something underneath and not have to think about the layout of that second quilt that you're also making at the same time. Now I think it was 2 weeks ago now that I went to a class on how to make a rag quilt, and I did film the whole process of making this quilt, and it's a vlog over on my Patreon account if you wanted to check that out. But this is how my rag quilt came out, and I am so happy with it. So it's all sorts of different pinks on the front. I did use cotton fabrics on the front and it has come out beautifully soft. Inside I did use wadding rather than like a flannel inside, which I know you can traditionally do. And then on the back I've used a flannel. I actually went out and bought some flannel for the back. So it's this lovely cream fabric, and then it's got a chevron design all over it, but I intentionally didn't pay attention to the placement of the chevrons on the back, so the pattern is kind of like all over now rather than just in a uniform chevron design. And I also had these flannel pajamas. They were a vintage pair of pajamas that was handmade. They were the wrong size for me. They was brand new. The lady had put them in a bag, and I don't know if she maybe intended to sell them. They looked like they was packaged for sale. They was the wrong size for me, and this was what started the whole colour theme really. I thought in my mind I'd be able to get enough squares from a pair of pyjamas to make a quilt. What planet was I on? So I've done a lovely diagonal cross design on the back of the quilt with the pinks, and there is a few of the pinks in the front, but then that was what inspired the whole of the design for the quilt. All I did was I went through my scraps and I tried to get a good range of colours, being light pinks, medium pinks, and then some darker pinks, and I cut them into 6-inch squares. This took 120 squares for the front and 120 squares for the back. and then I've laid it out in a 10 by 12 design. I think it could have done with an extra 2 rows if I wanted it to sort of cover me from head to toe type of thing, but it is just perfect for a throw size. So essentially what you do is you cut your squares an inch larger than your wadding, and then you do a quilt as you go. So all of these squares were quilted before assembly, and they've just got a crosshatch through each of the squares with a very light pink on the front, and then I used a cream bobbin on the back. And then you join them together on the front like this, leaving the raw edge exposed with a 1/2 inch seam, and then you just clip into all the seams, and then you put it through the wash and it will come out like this. I recommend washing it inside of a duvet case because these bits get everywhere. You don't want it blocking up your washing machine. And then usually I hang things on the line to dry, but I wanted it to fluff up in the tumble dryer, so I did put it in the tumble dryer, but when it was tumble drying I made sure I emptied the lint catcher a couple of times during the cycle because it did get quite full with lint. I've also been taking some classes over on Skillshare, which is the largest online learning platform for creatives like me and you. I've been doing a course on creating fabric postcards because, you know, I just love anything like mini quilts, putting things on the wall, and I thought fabric postcards are just perfect. But over on Skillshare there are thousands of classes in so many different categories. You've of course got lots in sewing, but then you've got other categories like art, design, illustration, video making, editing, subjects such as self-care, self-confidence. There is literally a class for everyone. And of course, with all the classes being online, you can learn at your own pace. You can pause the class and go back to it whenever you want to. But for me, I really enjoy going to sort of a one-stop place for everything that I want to learn at that time. So it's a really good advantage for me to have things like sewing on there. Also editing, it's really helping me up my game on editing the videos. If you would like to try Skillshare, the first 500 people to sign up with the link in the description will receive 1 month free of Skillshare. So start today and see what you can learn. I also have a workshop coming up, I think it's towards the end of October, on creating the knitted star, I think it's called. It's a quilt by Lo and Behold. I think I might be getting that totally wrong. It's basically this wonderful knitted star design. It kind of looks like a knitted star from a jumper or something, and it's a massive star design. So I'm doing an in-person workshop for that, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's the type of quilt though where it works really well with solids, so I need to do a bit of quilt shopping to get prepared for that. So whilst we're talking about mini quilts, I've created 2 mini quilts in the last month or so, and these need to go up on the wall. I just need to buy some command strips because that's all I do, is I put the command strips on the back and just put them on. I don't find that they damage the back of the quilt, but even if they did, none of these things I'm too precious about. They're not heirlooms or anything like that, so I'm happy to make something else if it gets damaged. The first quilt that I made, this is called a Scottish Glen, and it's like an illustration of a lake, and then you've got all these valleys, and we've put trees and lots of stitching accents over the top. This pattern is the same lady who designs the mushrooms that's just behind me there. She's got an Etsy shop, and I'll leave the link to that down below. Her first name's Julia, but I can't remember her second name, but I'll leave it all down below. Me and my sister created this. Again, this was a vlog over on my Patreon account, but all you do is you cut out fabric to be the shape of the item. You cut it out, no interfacing, nothing like that, and you just place it down on top, and you just baste it in place with a small bit of glue, and then you actually put a really fine netting over the top and add quilting however you want. It has to be quite dense quilting, but you don't stitch the fabric down beforehand. There's no piecing involved in this. It's all just like a raw edge applique type of method, and it doesn't. One of my sister's fabrics frayed a little bit, but I think that was because she kept handling it and changing the position of it. But that, I just love it. It's so good, and that's going to go just up there. Then from some scraps that I bought from the Festival of Quilts, this is made with Tilda scraps, I created this foundation paper pieced star. Again, I'll leave the link for this pattern down in the description box. The pattern is just for this section, this inner portion of the star, and because I then needed to extend it to fill a specific place, I put a border of white, just some scraps that I had from my white, and then I've put 2 rows of scraps all the way around the edge. I'll show you the quilting on the back. You might be able to see a little bit better the quilting on the back, and then I've just bound it with this really nice pop of pink. I think that frames everything really nice, and again I'll just need to put that on the wall. I just love creating mini quilts. It's so satisfying because it's a small project that you can just have done. Now, the opposite of small projects, my huge jelly roll rug that I made. This thing is absolutely huge. I did think it was going to be a bath mat, but it's too big to go where my bath is. I just love it. I'll put some footage over the top because it's definitely too big to hold up. So that was with a Tula Pink jelly roll that was very kindly sent to me by Missouri Star. In that video there was also a giveaway for someone to win a second jelly roll that I showed in the video. At the time of recording this video, that giveaway is still open, so I can't announce the winner just yet because I want to give everyone the chance to be able to enter, so it's really fair. So I will announce the winner of that shortly, perhaps in the next video. Sometimes with these videos it does require recording in advance, which is why I often say if you want to see what I'm making in real time, you can follow me over on Instagram. And I'm recording this in advance because I'm actually going away when this video will be published. So we're having a long weekend in Wales, not far from a quilt museum type of thing, and also a quilt shop next door, so I'm hoping that we'll get the chance to pop into there. But that jelly roll was really fun to make. I'm just waiting for the pain of sewing such a large thing together to fade before I make another one. You know, like they say, the pain of childbirth, it fades and then you want another one. I'm not comparing that to childbirth, but if you've sewn the jelly roll rug and the never-ending tube of fabric that you have to sew, it must be about 40 yards that you have to sew in one continuous piece. It does take some time, and I will be doing another one of those. I actually bought the 2.5 inch strip of wadding for this, so you end up with about this much left. It's probably double this when you get it, so I don't really know how much is on here, but I'm thinking I might make a small jelly roll rug to be a pet food bowl mat type of thing. So I think I'll have a look at what random leftover jelly roll strips I've got hanging around the place and make one of those. That'll be much easier, and it's really good to get your supplies used up, isn't it? So let me also show you something that I did with my sister. So if you watched my video from the Festival of Quilts, you'll know that I bought some Indian block printing supplies. We've had 2 days together of doing some Indian block printing. I did film a vlog of that, so I will be putting that up on the channel as well. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. I created a hexagon pouch. This block printing stamp was one that my dad actually bought me back from India. So I've got double-sided pouch. I'm definitely going to be putting some sewing supplies into this because it's huge. These were just pre-made pouches that we bought. So did that on the first session, and I also did a tea towel. So with all these random stamps just put over it in all sorts of directions, used all sorts of colours. We even had to go at mixing some of the paints together to create our own colours. It was just really fun, and to do something like a tea towel like this where you just put in the designs on quite randomly, it it gives you a good play and gets you to feel what the stamps are like, and then how you want to put it together to make more of a design. And then that's when I did this one. So we did all those in a day. And then we've also recently had a day doing the Indian block printing with my dad and stepmom, and that was just so much fun to see them enjoying the process. And I made this small pouch. I didn't do anything on the back. I wanted it to kind of look like a hedgerow in summer or autumn. Yeah, more autumn with all of the oranges. And then we've got a little bird there, and they just zip up with one of those metal zips. And again, I'll probably just put some supplies or something in here. With the Indian block printing, you do have to heat set it, so I still need to iron this. They do say that you need to heat set it, but me and my sister actually tried to wash something without heat setting it because we wanted it to come out. She'd made a mistake and it didn't come out. We soaked it immediately. So I think she'd misplaced something, or she'd put the stamp down wrong. So we took it straight to the sink, used cold water, scrubbing it with soap, let it submerge. We probably had it submerged in water for about half an hour, gave it another scrub. She then took it home wet in a carrier bag, put it straight into the washing machine, and it didn't come out. It faded a little bit, so she says what she thinks she might do. It's kind of like this, what she's done, and it's now faded into the background, so she might do something bold in the front just to make it stand out. But that was great fun. I really enjoyed doing stuff like that. Just moving on now to things that are kind of in progress. So my temperature quilt is still in progress. This is the row that I'm currently working on. So if you haven't been following my process of doing my temperature quilt, each square represents one day. The background is the low temperature and the circle is the high temperature. The different sizes in circles don't represent anything other than having a little bit of visual interest. I am, as I have been for most of the year, a little bit behind with the temperature quilt, but what I am planning to do in October is set myself a challenge of getting all the rows joined together and catching up. I'm going to prep everything before October, hopefully, or at the very beginning of October, and get everything sewn in October, because then November, it's my birthday in November, so things will be getting busy. Less time for sewing, and also December, less time for sewing, and I would really like to have the temperature quilt finished at the end of the year in terms of the top, the quilt top. So I feel like spending a little bit of time now will help me do that, as I'll be able to prep everything, and then going forward it will just be a case of staying up to date. That did actually go quite well for the first couple of months of the year, so I'm hoping that for the final couple of months of the year it will also go well as well. Also, that's been in progress this month is my hometown quilt block. So this is the first block, and this house is called the Flag House. So this is a pattern by Laurie Holt, and it's called the Hometown Quilt, and there's a series of 12 houses across the whole quilt, and then there's some traditional blocks that form rows in between. And I think off the top of my head those blocks are like 4 or 5 inches, so they are quite small. I had so much fun doing this quilt block. I really enjoyed it. It was so much fun just to choose the colour placement, just to lay out all the pieces, and then I did a blanket stitch on the machine. Now this block is weighty. This whole quilt is going to be quite a heavy quilt, because you make this quilt with the interfacing method of applique. So that's where you use sewing interfacing, and then you turn the shape out. I've got a video on making this block, and so has Laurie Holt. But yeah, I just had so much fun with it, and at the time I couldn't wait to start the next one, and I was thinking to myself, shall I just start the next one? But I haven't. But yeah, I can't wait to get the next one done. With the traditional quilt with the other quilt blocks that go in between, I think I'm going to start those in a couple of months. I'll see how my fabric levels are going, because I've got a selection of fat quarters, and I've also got a 10-inch charm pack to go with it, and I'm also going to pull from my scraps as well. So like these two here, these were just small bits from my scraps. I think all of all of the flour there was from my scraps. I didn't actually buy any grey. There's a few bits where you need grey to go as like the doorstop or like the entrance to the house, so I've just put brown on there because I had some of that in my stash. If you would like to join in with that is a quilt along that myself and the Orchid Craft Room are running. There's still plenty of time to join in. We're just doing one quilt block for each month of the year, and you can still purchase the shapes. It would be the So Simple shapes in the Hometown collection that you would need from Laurie Holt. I do know that Missouri Star still have those in stock, so you can shop with the link in the description box on the Missouri Star website. And then the final thing that I've been working on, I did another one last night. I'll put it against this paper so you can see, and it's these tiny stars that I've been making. And this is the Star a Day pattern by Karen Styles, and you just make these very small 6-pointed stars. I did show these in a recent video, so I shan't pull them back out and show you them all, but they're all hand pieced together, and that's the stack that I've done so far. All I'm doing for that project is using pink scraps. Let me show you. So I just have these prepared just so I can pull them out, and they're pink scraps, and then just scraps of cream or off-white for the back. And you actually don't need a lot of fabric to create these because that's the star, so it can actually fit onto like a 2-inch strip or something like that, and you can get quite a few cut out. I will do an update on that once I've joined them together so you can see how they're coming together. I'm quite excited to see that. So I think that pretty much comes to the end of all the things that I've been making. As you know, I do like to jump from project to project, but I feel like I've gotten quite a bit better on not doing that as much, or actually finishing the projects, because previously I would start things and not finish them, but I think I'm getting quite better at actually finishing, which does feel good. But then you get to the point of, what am I going to do with all these quilts? I need to find people to start giving them to as presents and things like that. But obviously the ones that have a lot more time invested in them, those are for me. So in terms of things that I've got coming up and what I want to be sewing in October, so definitely the temperature quilt. I'll be doing a whole dedicated video to an update on the temperature quilt, because when you see all the rows joined together, that's going to be really nice. Well, when I see the rows joined together. I'm also going to be doing a Halloween project, because my sister is the type of person where Halloween is all year. She just loves those type of decorations, so I would like to make a Halloween project for her, just a small one. What else do I want to do? I want to start my Christmas gift making. I want to do it early. I've got a few gifts in mind. I've got the supplies. I just need to start doing them, and I think if I do them early, it's just going to relieve the pressure come December, and I can do lots of pleasure sewing for myself. Like I said, we are going to Wales next week. Well, this week. I'll be in Wales when you see this video. I'm going to take a little bit of easy sewing with me to Wales. I'm thinking I started a Christmas hexagon quilt last year, and I think I might take that with me, because it's just really easy to just sit down and join some hexagons together. There's no pattern, it's just scrappy all the way across the quilt. So I think I'll take that, because I've been itching to do that, because in my mind I wanted to get that finished this year. It's not going to happen, but I would like to work on that a little bit, and then maybe I can work on that throughout December as well. I think I will do a video of my little trip to Wales, but that one will be a Patreon exclusive video. So if you would like to see some of the scenery, what we get up to, and the trip to the Quilt Museum and Quilt Shop, then do head over to my Patreon, which is linked in my description. Right then, so I think that comes to the end of everything that I've pulled out to show you. I hope you've had some wonderful crafting time in the last couple of months, or that any of these projects have inspired you. I am just absolutely in love with quilting at the moment. You know, when you've just got such a passion for something and you just can't stop. That is me at the moment. I did also want to touch on, though, that I know I've put out a lot of videos in the recent recent couple of months. A lot of them are like recorded over a long period of time and then they're put out. So it's not that I do a lot in a short space of time, it's that it's spread out and it cuts together and it looks like it's all been done in a short period of time. So I'm not as productive as it looks. All of these projects have been months. I don't think I've done one of these videos maybe since July now. But of course I am addicted, and any free time that I get I spend it on quilting. I just absolutely love it, whether it's hand quilting or machine quilting. I am so in love with my sewing machine. I've come a long way, haven't I? If you've been a long watcher of the channel, you'll know that I was scared of my sewing machine, which is why I took up hand sewing, which I'm forever grateful of, because hand sewing is just so relaxing. But now I've just gotten into the groove with my sewing machine, and the world of possibilities have opened up to me. I think that's why I've took on so much and had so much going on, because now I'm like, I can follow patterns, which is something again that I didn't have the confidence for 12 months ago. And slowly but surely, because patterns can be intimidating, can't they? Yeah, I've just absolutely been loving everything that I've been doing recently. And thank you everyone for coming on this wonderful journey with me, following what I do, and just leaving wonderful and lovely supporting comments. I really do appreciate it. So thank you so much for watching. You take care, and until next time, bye bye.
No, stop it.